Thank you. I haven't done that many talks. This is actually my first on this scope, besides, of course, meetups. And so I'm grateful to Thibaut and Michel Martens for helping me put this one together. Um, my name is Ekechi Ikenna. I'm a full-stack Ruby on Rails developer from Lagos, Nigeria. Most of my experience has been collaborating with teams remotely, um, wherever they are, New York, Australia, South Africa, and London. Um, I currently lead a development team at 42 Courses. 42 Courses is an e-learning platform in London and South Africa. Learning online is boring and slightly difficult. I do remember a couple of times I've enrolled in courses and then been unable to go back to complete the course content because it wasn't interesting enough, or sometimes it's just boring. What 42 Courses has tried to do is sort of gamify the learning process such that, so when learners get through like a milestone, they get points, or encourage people to learn in teams and also as companies or countries. And so you can basically see leaderboards of how you perform per team or as an organization. At the time when I joined 42 Courses, the platform also has this feature where you are able to gift the courses. Besides purchasing them for yourself, you're able to gift them to other people, like family and friends, so that they can learn as well. And so the gifting platform was mostly manual. What that means is, in addition to being able to include the recipient's details, email and name, and probably like a template. So the template is a PNG file. And so what happens is when you purchase the gift and have it sent to someone, a person on our team receives an email, so a notification to basically go into the system and manually generate a coupon and then emboss this coupon on the chosen template that you've selected, and then manually creates an email and sends it to the recipient of your gift. And so when I joined the team, I figured we had to automate this because that would save lots of time and manpower for the other members of the team. And so so what happens now is when you purchase a gift on the platform, it spins up a worker, schedules a worker using Sidekick. And then when that time arrives, what it does is it automatically generates the coupon code and embosses it on your chosen templates, and then uses Postmark to email. It uses ImageMagick to emboss the coupon code on the PNG file, and then sends it out to whoever the recipient of the gift is. Now, this part is about how I ran into development using Ruby on Rails. I did not have a very fun time being in the university. This place is really nice, but the university where I schooled, the average temperature in Nigeria is about 32 degrees Celsius on a good day. And so the lecture halls were quite crowded and uncomfortable. And then the syllabuses they sort of felt outdated if you knew what was happening elsewhere in the world. And so it wasn't very fun. And I also did not want to live the corporate lifestyle where I had to wear a suit and a tie every day to work and sit at a desk and do my job. So it was difficult trying to figure out what I really wanted to do for myself for the rest of my life, because I had to earn a living, I had to do something. And so somewhere along the line, I ran into web development. My first example was basically using CSS and HTML to display a web page on a browser. And that felt strange and exciting. And so that was how my journey into software engineering or development began, because a couple of months later, I ran into this ad. So a company had just come from New York to Lagos, and they seemed to be claiming to want to hire people and train them to be software developers. If you're familiar with Lagos, Nigeria, then you'd know that there's a lot of scam job openings. And so I kind of figured this was one of those many ones, because, I mean, they were offering to pay you while also teaching you to learn how to code. But looking through like the recruitment process, I was interested by the fact that they had some personality tests, some IQ tests, and so it kind of began to feel real, but I was still reluctant until my friend sort of joked that I was scared of getting through into the system. And so I took the tests, and for some reason, about 4,000, more than 4,000 people had applied to the same job, but they just wanted 20 people. And so, yeah, so that's how I got into the boot camp that the organization was running at the time. Yeah, so the bootcamp was interesting. We had people all over the world, from India, from the United States, basically teaching us. We were exposed to Node.js, Java, Ruby, of course, and Python. But being a very lazy person, I kind of got attracted to how intuitive Ruby seemed. And so that's how I started coding in Ruby. Over the years, of course, that exposed me to work remotely for a lot of companies in the US. Bumps along the road. I do remember once, at the early stages of my career, I was working then for an e-learning company based in New York at the time. And so we had a video player, and we had subtitles. So the video player had a JavaScript wrapper. And so for some reason, the captions on the videos weren't passing correctly like we expected them to. And so as a junior developer, I was handed the task to figure out why that was happening. I remember that I spent several days hitting my head against the wall trying to figure out why. But then I couldn't also ask someone else on the team to help me, because I was ashamed, because I couldn't explain why I was on this team and they were paying me this money, and then I was pretending to be a software developer, but I couldn't solve a problem that they had given me. So I didn't realize at this point that this was imposter syndrome. I also didn't know that this would happen frequently during the course of my career. I also didn't know that this would keep happening during the course of my career. After a while, I left the company where I had bootcamped. It was sort of like, I wanted to grow faster because I wanted to have direct contact with like my clients. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to sort of be directly a part of like the teams I worked on. And so I decided that I was leaving the company. And so what that meant is, because the company used to provide stipends, the company used to provide internet, the company used to provide electricity. And these things are important because the average amount of electricity you get per day is probably about 4 hours. And so the rest of the time, you have to find a way to power yourself using generators. That's if electricity is that important to you. And so Yes, you now, so there was this transition where you had to now get a job because then you needed money to power and pay for electricity and buy your own internet. Internet is fairly expensive and not very reliable. Um, I remember a couple of times when, so you are on a Skype meeting with the rest of the team, and then suddenly power goes out, and so the section where you are on the screen just goes dark, and they're shocked, and they can't understand why, where Ike has gone. So yes, after, one thing I figured out while I was boot camping was if you are able to bring together a few like-minded people and provide them with certain resources such as internet, a computer, some mentorship, some form of mentorship and training, it's really impossible to put a cap on the amount of stuff like that they can learn and figure out by themselves. And so over time, I realized that I had lots of friends who had left the university, but like me, they weren't, like they had graduated, but then they were in this phase where because there's like a high rate of unemployment in Nigeria, they couldn't figure out what the next step was. And so they were looking for jobs, but they didn't really know, because there weren't any jobs, they didn't know what else to do. And these people were smart and really like knew stuff. And so I figured the easy solution would be bringing them together and basically suggesting to them that they actually had this other option, which is basically learning how to code. Over time, it's been interesting how much that has helped because, so in some instances, it's been as little as maybe waiting for your next paycheck and then using it to buy some computers and ship to someone. In other instances, it's been maybe providing your apartment so that they can have power and make use of your internet. In other instances, it could be as easy as just sending them stipends periodically so that they can purchase internet wherever they were. And then, of course, making your time available so that you guys can peer program, and then you can put them through any blockers that they've run into. A lot of these people have ended up going on to get different jobs. Like Rowan said yesterday, the advantage of being a software engineer is actually the fact that it provides you, at least in my environment, it provides you upward mobility and a lot of social change, because then you go from this person who previously was earning nothing, and then suddenly you have a good job, you're doing what you love, you're creating change, and then at the same time, you're also making a lot of money. And then it's also had like some very serious impacts on the ecosystem, because then more companies also now have more better skilled people that have the skills to solve some of the problems that they have. We all chose our career paths for different reasons. For a lot of people I know, in a place like Nigeria, it's a little more than just the love that they have for technology and creating new things and just basically building stuff. It's also about the amount of social change it can bring in their lives. And I think that with a little more collaboration, we can even make more progress than we've made so far. Thank you very much.